Hey guys, Naz here. So today I'm going to be going over my sort of 2018 year in review. This video is going to be pretty long and rambly, so don't feel obligated to watch it if you don't want to. I just really like to make these at sort of the end/start of each year, just to put into perspective what I've done and what my plans are and my goals are for the following year. I'll also mostly just be looking over pictures of what I've made last year, so don't feel obligated to watch the footage unless you really want to. So here are all the things that I made in 2018, starting at Tempest Shadow and going all the way up to Dr. Fox. I also made a couple of other little things that I didn't really bother to take professional photos of. I might have taken a little video or something like that. So I think all up I made something like 16 or so plushies in 2018, which is a fair few actually. I didn't expect to make quite that much because I made a fair few complicated projects. The ponies are much quicker to make, so I think that's why the number is a little bit higher than I was anticipating. So a little bit of a recap of 2017, the year before. Here are the things that I was making in 2017. And I like to go over these because I usually try and write down my goals every year for the following year. So my goals for 2018 were to start building my studio, and that has been nearly finished. So we started to build it at the start of 2018, and now it's nearly finished at the start of 2019, so it's taken a long time to get all the building work and things done on that. It's nearly up to painting, so once it's painted I should be in there hopefully in about a month or so. I would like to be in there, cross fingers. But the only reason that sort of the studio came to be much quicker than I thought it was going to, I didn't think it would get done that year at all, was that my partner totaled my car, and the payout from that paid for all the building work on the studio, or most of it anyway. I wanted to work on a more profitable and enjoyable commission system. That's something that I still have not totally worked out, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Start on Ratchet, and I also think start working on fursuits was a couple of my goals. I didn't get to do that. That's something that I really want to push for this year, not necessarily Ratchet, but just working on some fursuit things. That's something I really want to expand into. I really am finding the plush a bit limiting in what I can work on. I really want to work with different mediums and do things like that. Buy a 3D printer, I did end up doing that. It's been a really good purchase. When I initially bought it I thought, oh, what have I done? I'm never going to use this. This was a silly purchase, but now I'm really starting to use it, and it's just opened up a massive amount of things that I couldn't do before. Start playing D&D and don't be a hermit. Still a bit of a hermit, but I have started playing D&D, so that gets me socialising once a week, which is really fun. Start on my signed main 6, so My Little Pony, the main character collection. I haven't started on those, but I have pretty much finalised how I want my My Little Pony pattern to look, which is something that I've been working on. You know, that's why I got into making plushies in the first place. So I was very happy with sort of pretty much finalising how I want this pattern last year, which is something, yeah, I've been working on for ages, so I don't really feel like I want to change anything on it at the moment. So I do feel confident that I will be able to start my own personal collection soon and not sort of worry that there's things I want to change on it. It's not quite perfect yet. Take some online courses. I did do that. I started taking some courses from the Stan Winston School of Character Arts, which is an online service that you can watch different tutorials on different crafting methods. I wasn't able to afford to do that all year. I just took it for a few months, but I learned a lot from those. I'd like to get to the point where I can afford to buy the yearly subscription and have that on hand at all times. Do some commercial work. I did a little bit of work for a guy that works at Lego. So you might have seen like the Unikitty, the Puppycorn and Dr. Fox, etc. So I made those for him. One thing that has only just come to light recently is that Unikitty got a spotlight, just like a background cameo in the upcoming Lego movie, so that was awesome. That was sort of a goal of mine, to get something that I've made in a movie one day. So she's only in the background for a second, but that was still really cool. So he was using these as sort of promotional work, promotional things to bring with him to the premiere of the Lego movie and stuff like that. So that was pretty much all my goals for 2018. So onto my goals for 2019. So again, I want to get my studio finished. I think that will be done quite soon. We just need to finish up some sanding and painting, things like that. So that will be awesome to get out there, because I'm currently just working in a single bedroom. It's really cramped. I'm just driving myself crazy, tripping over things all the time. I really want to get into making fursuit parts. I really wanted to make my Griffin character. So initially at the end of 2018, I really wanted one of my 2019 goals to be making my Griffin character as a full fursuit to bring with me to Furdo 2019. I'm gonna mess up these years, I'm sure, but I wanted to be able to take her to that convention. It's pretty much Australia's only large furry convention that happens once a year, and that's about mid-year at the end of May. I've now reassessed doing that in the period of time that I have between now and the convention. I'm still working on commissions. I still have a couple to finish up, and I've sort of decided, after a lot of stressing and thinking, will I be able to get her made in time, I think I'm going to push her aside and work on her towards the end of the year or after the convention. I say this because I really don't want to rush her. I think I'm going to be under an immense amount of stress if I try to make something as big as this and something as new as this before that convention. So I'll be working on her later this year, hopefully, and I just want to work on her in the background while I'm working on other things, so I don't have to rush any elements of her, and I'm not feeling super stressed because I've been working on Crash Bandicoot for so long, nearly 5 months now. I don't want to take on another project that lasts maybe 4 months or 3 months. That's just going to be way too much. It's not going to be very good for my mental health. I think if I take on such a big project straight after and continue to keep myself under that same level of stress. So I think she'll be made later on in the year, but definitely making a full fursuit is something I really want to do this year, 2019. So hopefully that will get done at some point. But instead, my plan for the convention is to finish up one of my resin fursuit heads, like this eagle that has been hanging around haunting me for a couple of years that I haven't had the time to finish. So she's all ready to go. I want to put all the fur and the feathers and everything on her, and I'll probably end up making like some talon gloves and a tail and things like that to wear her to the convention. So I'll have something to bring with me that won't be as stressful, or something that I can work on for maybe a couple of weeks, and I don't think she will take that long. So that will be a nice stress-free sort of project to work on, that I can work on between now and the convention, so I won't really have to worry about that. So I'll go over all the things that I made in 2018. So at the end of 2017, I was kind of in a similar position to what I am at now. I was working on Ignitus, and Ignitus was extremely complicated, difficult. It took me months to make. I was pretty much, in the exact same situation I am now, where it was just taking so much longer than I initially anticipated. It was very difficult, it was very stressful, all that sort of thing. I thought he was only going to take a couple of months, and he took several months, just like Crash. So this is something that is sort of a symptom of my previous commission system, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but something that I want to avoid in the future, taking on too massive of projects and leaving them till the end of the year, and they just take months and months and months. So I was still working on him. You can see when the year ticks over by me posting the previous summary. So I needed to make some money because I pretty much run out of funds from working on Ignitus, so I took on a couple of commissions from the My Little Pony movie. I made Tempest Shadow, and I made Princess Skystar. So I made both of those to sort of give myself a little mental health break and to get some funds together, so I took those two on as commissions. Really liked both of them, did lots of custom Minky dyeing for Tempest. She was really well received. It was just after the My Little Pony movie had come out. I thought she looked really cool. And also Princess Skystar, I really love how her open mouth came out. That was something that I hadn't done before. It's still something that's on the back of my mind. I really want to try with other plushies. I really want to make just a standard My Little Pony character with this open mouth. I think it looks really good, so that's something I want to work with more. So then I think it was around February, when did I post this? Yeah, it was towards the end of February that I eventually finished Ignitus. So I think I'll be in a similar boat for finishing Crash Bandicoot. He'll be finished sort of end of February or maybe March, so mid-March, hopefully. So it's sort of a similar sort of workload and a similar time of year. The next commission that I worked on was my Shiny Raikou in that cool sort of crouching pose. I really was excited to make that kind of pose. It was quite difficult at the time, but now that I know how to do it, it's not that hard. But I was really happy with how that dynamic pose came out. I'd like to do more of that sort of thing. It really just takes it from an average plush into like a wow plush, which is really awesome. Then I think I needed a big mental health break, so I made a bunch of ponies, sort of developing my pony pattern, as you can see here, so sort of an older pattern going all the way up to my latest pattern up here. So I really wanted to make a movie style My Little Pony pattern, and you can see these two ponies here in the sort of movie style with the 3D ears. They have the heart hooves, and I changed the shape of their face a little bit, that sort of thing. Their eyes have more gradients in them and that sort of thing, but that actually influenced my current final pony pattern. I really liked the head shape that I achieved with these guys. It's very round from the front, which is something I hadn't perfectly achieved before. You can sort of compare this girl here. You can see the roundness of her face compared to the roundness of this one's face, so I think I finally got that really circular front view for the ponies, which is something I've been striving for a long time. It's really hard to do, and there's a lot of darts on the back of that face and extra pieces that I'd never had in patterns before. I also made a Unikitty, as I mentioned earlier. She was really fun. Making a geometric plush with a foam core was really interesting. Then I started work on the two Feraligators. I was really lucky that I had two people request Feraligator in the same opening. One person wanted normal Feraligator and the other wanted a shiny version. Again, this was another massive project, especially this guy here because he was so massive. He went to a lovely commissioner who actually sews herself, so I normally can't post plushies this large for an affordable price, but I was able to unstuff his body and post him that way, and she stuffed him at home. So he was super well received. I really like both of them, but people really seemed to like this one just because it's huge. Any plush that's huge is going to get heaps more attention than a plush that is not huge, and that's kind of just how it is. But they're exactly the same pattern on both of them, really. I worked on making a fully open mouth for him. I'd like to develop mouths that can open and close. I tried to do that on this one, but I think I just need some really heavy duty joints because the weight of the mouth just would not allow it to very solidly open and close and keep its position, even though that was kind of what I was going for. But yeah, I was really happy with how they were received. I made this Twilight Sparkle to practice for the life-size Twilight Sparkle that I had coming up. She went together fairly quickly, but I had a lot of issues with her, having to have her sent back to me, and the commissioner wanted a lot of changes, so that ended up being extremely stressful. I just broke down. It was a really hard time of the year for me, so I probably won't be taking on plushies that large anymore unless people are going to come and pick them up in person. It's just way too stressful. It's way too big of a project. So for me to deal with. It was just, even shipping it took several days to pack and ship, and I wasn't getting paid for that time, obviously. So I was still, I still was really happy with how she came out. I think making that smaller version first was a great idea because I didn't have to mess around with the pattern at all. I just blew it up and she came out really well. And the commissioner was really happy with her in the end after that whole sort of situation. And then one of the later commissions I was working on was Whimsy. This girl was beautiful. I was really happy with how she came out. She's kind of mixed media, but I will never ever be doing this yarn hair again. You have to sort of brush out individual tufts of yarn, and I must have brushed out like hundreds of them by hand, and by the end like my wrists were very much in pain. It was a really time heavy and labour heavy process to brush out each single tuft of hair. It takes several minutes to brush out, but with very hard manual brushing with like a cat hair brush sort of thing, and then gluing all of them on. I'm really happy that I did finish her. I think she looks really beautiful, but I will not be using that technique again. I think it's just too time heavy and too heavy on my wrists. It was just could have potentially damaged them long term. So I also worked with resin for her horns. That was something that I was super excited to do. I sort of she has like bubbles in her horns, and I ended up using some glass spheres inside of blue resin, which came out really cool. So the last couple of plush that I ended up working on were Corn and Dr. Fox for the same guy who commissioned Unikitty. I think I made them sort of like mid-year or something like that, but I couldn't post pictures because he wanted them kept a secret up until recently. So that's pretty much all I worked on in 2018. So one commission that I'm still working on is Crash, and that's the life-size Crash Bandicoot. You will have seen lots and lots of pictures if you're following me on Patreon. So I've been working on him since October last year, 2018, and I'm still working on him. I'm hoping that I can finish him, as I said, late February, sort of mid-March sort of thing, cross fingers. A lot of him is done. I'm currently working on adding all his fur to his body. So what I've done so far with him, I've done the shoes, I've done the under pattern for the pants, I've done the actual pattern for the pants but haven't sewn them, all the base of his head, his arms, his ears, all that's done. I've done the flesh sort of fleece cover for his mouth, I've done his teeth, I've got the base for his nose which I just need to cover and texture, I've done the mould for his tongue so I just need to cast that. I'm currently doing all the fur on his body and arms and everything like that. I've made his gloves, they just need to be painted. So really, in the coming weeks, all I'll have to do is attach his fur, airbrush all of it, cast his tongue, 3D print his eyes, sand those, finish them, put the pupils on them, and do his hair, paint his gloves, and just sew up his shorts, which I've already got the pattern for. So hopefully that will go a little bit quicker. As always with these massive patterns, I sort of get burnt out in the middle of them, I'm finding, so that's something I need to change with my future commission choices. Crash has been really amazing to work on, but also has just taken so long and so much longer than I anticipated. So for my own sort of mental health, I need to ease up on taking on these massive projects and sort of realising truly the time that goes into them versus what I can ask payment for them. You guys might remember that at the end of it would have been like 2017 or something like that, when I opened for commissions, my last spot was a guaranteed slot via auction and the winner was Crash. So you might have seen that the auction went up to 7,000 Australian dollars, which at the time I thought was massive. I was like crazy happy. But when you break down these projects, something that could potentially take me 5-6 months, working 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, you do the math, and then his materials have probably cost me a couple of grand. Taking on these big projects financially for me isn't very viable long term. So while it's fun to take them on and it sounds fun and they're very flashy to show off, I'm better off taking more smaller projects. So I'm really going to have to reassess how much I'm going to charge for projects that are absolutely monstrous, that take me almost half of my capacity of the working year to finish. So that's something that I really need to work on. So on the topic of commissions, going forward, I'm wanting to only take on 1 or 2 commissions at a time from now on, because previously I was taking on about 8 to 10 at a time, and that was going down from what I used to take. I used to take maybe 15 at a time, but I'm finding that my commissions are taking me over 12 months to finish all the commissions on that list, and I don't think it's fair to me. I don't think it's fair for the people who have to wait that have paid me. I don't think it's fair for people waiting for me to open for commissions. So overall, I think that taking on 1 or 2 commissions at a time as I need them will be the better option. So I'm hoping that that won't be too stressful for me, sort of not having that security of having all those commissions backed up. But I also have come to realise that it's really just not good for my mental health to be working on things non-stop for almost a year without having any time to sort of work on anything for myself. So that's one of my resolutions for this year, is to be strong and modify my commission system, really assess how long things are going to take, which has meant raising a lot of my prices. People probably already think my prices are ludicrous, but I have to sort of separate myself from the dollar value of the lump sum and look at how much I'm going to be getting paid per day, per hour sort of thing. While it might sound like a lot of money, and I realise like I could never spend thousands of dollars on a plushie for myself, but I have to look at what I'm realistically getting paid for these projects. So as for other goals for the coming year, As I said, I want to work on a lot of fursuit things. That's something I really want to get into. I feel that that's where my crafting will eventually take me. I'm never going to stop making plushies, but I would like to make fursuits as well. So I'd really like to finish up a bunch of realistic fursuit heads. I have a lot of different blanks that I've purchased, so that's like the base shape that you can sculpt on and paint and fur and all that sort of thing. So I've got a lot of those, like probably like 10 of them sitting around. So I'd like to finish at least a few of those next year. We'll see how we go, but I think they will be quicker to finish than a plush because I'm not making the base form from scratch. Eventually I would like to make my own base resin head shapes from scratch of certain animals, but I think I need to get some practice in me first with these pre-made bases and sort of get a bit more of a feel for them, then start working on some characters for myself, like that griffin that I showed you guys earlier. So one thing that working on Crash has helped me with is I want my work to become a lot more mixed media. Even with the plushies, I want to make more, go away from the idea of plushies and go more into character replicas. It's really hard because there's not a really good word for it, but I want my creations to be more like real world interpretations of that character. I'm not saying making them like scary, realistic kind of like Pokemon movie kind of thing, just making them how I would interpret them in different mediums. So with Crash I'm able to use resin, 3D printing, I'm able to use different fabrics and fur and all these sorts of things. So it's been a really good learning curve because that's kind of what I want to do in the future. I want to make things, a lot of them will be based in plush form, but using things like foam, resin, 3D printing, all that sort of stuff to sort of make the ultimate sort of blend of media to capture that character in 3D form sort of thing. So that's kind of where I want to head. Also, those projects are really time consuming, so I'll probably be working on a lot of those as personal projects, so I don't have the pressure of working on them as a commission. I sort of don't have to finish them in any particular time frame. So that's what I would like to do moving forward, as well as working on the fursuits. But that's pretty much my goals for 2019. We'll see how I go. I usually don't get all of them done, but I'm hoping to at least get some of them done. But it should be a good year once I finish Crash. I have another small little secret commission gift for someone. That should go past pretty quickly, and then I'm going to take a little bit of a break for myself to probably work on this eagle mask or something else. I just need a little bit of a mental health break after working on all these plushies for over 12 months. So anyway, if you listen to this whole thing, thank you. I know it was pretty rambly, it's probably pretty long at this point, but yeah, I do like making these videos and sort of going over the good and bad of each year and my goals for the coming year. But thanks for sticking by. I really appreciate everyone's continued support through Patreon. I'm finding I don't know how many more years I'll be able to do the videos on Patreon. I've nearly done, I think, probably nearly 90 videos now or something like that, so I'm sort of struggling these days a little bit to come up with more ideas for videos. I'm still getting there. I like to do more videos on things like patterns for more obscure animals that I haven't seen people do before. That's sort of a nice series that I would like to do, and I'd also like to document making fursuits as I sort of step into that, using different techniques and all that sort of thing, trying to cover more like a blog style of what I'm working on rather than filming every single section, and making tutorials, where applicable. I don't want to make too many tutorials on stuff that I'm not proficient in, so I'll be taking you guys along with me making my first fursuits, and then as I feel confident I'll start making tutorials covering things as I got a bit more experience. But hopefully I can keep Patreon going for as long as possible and keep thinking of video ideas, and yeah, start doing more videos that are a bit more follow along blogs and just covering what I'm working on at any point in time, and then trying to think of as many tutorials as I can on top of the ones I've already made. But as I work more in these mixed media type things, I'm hoping that will bring up a lot more tutorials that I can make for you guys as well. But anyway, thanks for listening to me rambling. I'll see you guys throughout 2019. Bye!